Welcome to the Novaworks Learning Center. In this video, we will demonstrate how to use the XDX Setup Wizard for documents that use the risk return taxonomy. Using the XDX Setup Wizard is the first step in adding XDX tagging to an HTML document. The wizard will set the taxonomy and namespace for the document, add document and entity information to the document, set up the units that will be used for your facts, create extension elements for your series, class, and performance measures, and begin the tagging process by automatically tagging the document's cover page facts, if applicable. You can also choose to split the file into smaller segments to allow for collaboration during the tagging process. Let's start by going to GoFiler. We have a sample prospectus open in Page View. We have already performed our HTML conversion and have adjusted the formatting and style of the document. To start the wizard, go to the XDX Report ribbon. Click the Taxonomy button in the XDX Document Toolset. The wizard opens. This screen provides an overview of the XDX creation process. It has an outline of the steps, which we briefly discussed. Let's dive right in. Click the Next button. We're going to change the taxonomy to the most recent risk return taxonomy. We're going to use the RR 2018 option. This option uses the SEC provided cal, def, and prefiles to build the XBRL or iXBRL report. The other option to use is the RR 2018 no default imports option, which would not use these files. For this tutorial, we're going to use the cal, def, and prefiles provided by the SEC. Click the Next button. Here is where we enter the namespace information. Add the registrant's CIK. Enter the period of the report. Enter the domain for the registrant. Enter the ticker or identifier, if any. The software will create the namespace automatically. You can see a preview of that namespace here. Click the Next button. On this screen, set the date of the report. Now, if desired, you can click the Finish button and stop the wizard here. It will add the taxonomy and namespaces to the document, and you can begin tagging. However, the wizard can do more work for us. Most importantly, the wizard can help us quickly create extension elements for the series and classes in the prospectus. Going forward, we can finish the wizard at any time by clicking the Finish button, but for now, click Next. This screen contains the tools for setting the units for the report. By default, the wizard will add US dollars as the default unit for monetary facts and pure for ratio facts. These units are sufficient for our document. You can add and edit units any time when you are tagging your document, so don't worry if you forget to add one now. Click the Next button to move to the next screen. This screen contains options for adding our series and class elements. You need to add an element for each class that is being reported within the document. The tools on the lower part of the dialog let you specify the name of the extension element and the label for that item. You need to add an element for each class that is being reported within the document. The tools on the lower part of the dialog let you specify the name of the extension element and the label for that item. There's a section for series data, one for class data, and one for performance measures. Extension elements should be named using the series or class identifier followed by the word member. So for example, C123456789 member. You can manually enter the data in these fields, or you can use the series and class library that is built into GoFiler. Let's use the library. Click the Library button. So we have a list of funds that we previously added to our library. Expand the applicable fund by clicking on the plus icon next to its name. You can see the series under the fund. Click on the plus icon next to the series to expand it. And the classes for that series appear. Check each class that is contained in the prospectus. Our prospectus has 4 classes here for the Domestic Value Fund. If you check the box next to the series name, it will automatically select all the classes under it. Once you have checked each applicable series and class, click OK. They have been added to the wizard. If we select one, we can see the information for it. Now, it's important to note that this wizard doesn't care about the relationships here. It's going to use the data we entered on the screen to make extensions for each item individually. The library added our series and our classes, but it did not add any performance measure information. We don't need to add that here, but it can be useful since it'll appear in our members list when we start tagging. So let's go ahead and add the performance measure for our document. This document has one performance measure, which is the Russell index. We can add this performance measure to any of our classes. Because the dialog doesn't create relationships, we only need to add it to one. The wizard will use the information it finds for the performance measures to create the appropriate extensions for the performance measure. So click on any of the classes. Place the cursor in the element field in the series performance area. Enter a concept name for the performance measure. I'll use Russell Index Member. Then add a label for it, which will be Russell Index. Click Apply to add the performance measure to the series and class list. We would repeat this process for each performance measure. For subsequent performance measures, click the Add button to add a new entry to the list. Repeating a series or class entry is fine. Duplicate information will be ignored. Once all our performance measures, series, and classes have been added, click Next. The last screen of our wizard appears. This screen sets the editing options for the document. There are three options. First, use a single file. This means that the document won't be split into segments and that the XDX data defining any custom elements or other meta information for the document will be stored in the header of the file. The second option is to use a single HTML file but a separate XDX file. This option won't split the document into segments, but it's going to take that XDX information for custom elements and place it in a separate companion document. If you pick this option, be careful if you move the document to a new location. You'll have to move the XDX file too. Despite that, there are benefits to using this option. XDX data can be shared between documents. That means I can automatically add extension elements that I created in one document to a different document. You can pick up the XDX file from a previous prospectus and have all the same custom members ready to go for your new filing. We'll cover how to do that in another tutorial. The final option is to use multiple HTML files. This option splits the document into segments. Those files will then share XDX information, which will be specified in its own file as well. This option is best suited for larger documents where multiple users can work on individual segments simultaneously. For our document, we'll use the single file option. It makes the most sense. Now, the last option of our wizard is to automatically tag the cover page using XDX inline facts. If you have a cover page, this is going to use that analysis it performed at the beginning of the wizard to add XBRL elements to the cover page. Our document doesn't have a cover page, so we can ignore this option. Let's click Finish. So now we have a prospectus with a taxonomy information set. Once you've run the XDX Setup Wizard on the document, you can't run it again. If we click on the Taxonomy button again, it's going to open the document properties, which looks very similar to the wizard. There's a tab to edit the taxonomy for the document, the namespace for the document, the reporting period, the units, which we mentioned earlier, the document and entity facts for the report. These are the DEI facts that have no visual data in the document, like the fact for the amendment flag element. And finally, the linkages for the document. Here's where we can specify an external XDX file to use for custom elements. If you specify a file that doesn't exist, that's okay. The software will make it for you. The Overrides field specifies the file to use for presentation overrides, which is an advanced topic we won't cover now. You can use this Properties dialog to edit the document properties at any time. Just click OK to save your changes. You'll note that there was no tab on the dialog that corresponded to the series and class elements. Those are located in the Extension Manager. To open the Extensions Manager, click on Extensions in the XDX Document toolset. Here you can see the extensions that were created by the wizard. We have a member element for our series and for each of the classes. There is also a member element for our performance measure. We could add more classes or series using this dialog. If you want to add another class or series, be certain to name the element appropriately and choose domain for its data type. The period should be set to duration, and the balance unspecified. The label will be the name of the series or class. Clicking Add will add the element to the document, so we can use it for the tagging process. Let's click OK. We've set up a taxonomy and our series and classes, which means our document is ready to go, and we can start tagging. I'm going to stop here, and we'll talk about how to tag the document in our next tutorial. Thanks for watching.